January is National Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and today is Wear Blue Day for National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. You can see the blue suit here. Now, the topic is especially sensitive here in Los Angeles County. There is a unique model court treating youth as survivors and not victims. And joining me now is Leslie Heimov, an expert voice on commercially sexually exploited children and executive director of the Children's Law Center of California, to tell us more. Leslie, it is great having you here. Thank you for joining us. You and I have been chatting a little bit before we got on the air here. Tell me a little bit more about this, the fact that you are the executive director of this Children's Law Center court. And this is unique in comparison to other courts around the country. What makes it so unique, and why is it so important?
Sure, thank you.
Dream Court, I'm sorry.
Dream Court, yes, thank you for asking. So about 10 years ago, when the law changed to decriminalize child prostitution, to make it so there's no such thing as a child prostitute, but rather children who are victims of commercial sexual exploitation, Los Angeles started what we call the Dream Court. And what's unique about the court is every child that appears there is a victim of trafficking or a survivor of trafficking. And every single person who works in that court, from the judge to the lawyers to the bailiff to the court clerk, receives special training about how to best interact with and support and serve these young people. And the standards and expectations are very much centered on where the child is at that moment. You know, we hear that phrase, where the youth is at.
Right.
And it's a harm reduction approach. If a child is recovered from being trafficked, maybe hasn't been to school in a year or 2 years, and she goes to school one day last week and stays for 2 hours, that's applauded and celebrated, instead of her being criticized for not making it through the whole day every day. Right? So it's really recognizing that these young people have had a tremendous amount of trauma. And that we have to take baby steps to support them and to help them sort of re-normalize their day-to-day living, and to recognize that they are more than their experience of being trafficked.
You know, you just mentioned, really I hear it as, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation in courts, right? You have someone who's there for different things. Being specialized, I'm sure this is something that you all have found has been very beneficial to these young folks, and really into the folks involved as well, right? Learning more about it. I want to go back more over this this nationwide movement that you have to recognize it as a unique, there's, quote, no such thing, as you just mentioned there, as a child prostitute. First of all, just even hearing that sounds traumatic. You know, you don't think of that. I'm a father of 3 young daughters. You just don't think children and then prostitution. Tell us the need more about this campaign and why victims need to be treated as survivors and not seen as, you know, just criminals.
Right. So prior to changing the law, children as young as 10, 11, and 12 years old were arrested for prostitution. The average age of entry into being exploited is 9 to 12 years old. So 20% of the children we serve in Los Angeles County were first exploited in that very, very young age range. They may not be discovered by the authorities until they're older, but that was their point of entry. Right. So the idea that that young person, whether they're 12, 14, 16, 17, should be viewed as a criminal is, thinking about it now, makes no sense, right? And so that was why we had to change the law and really change the thinking. So for a long time, law enforcement, the courts, society in general, thought that these young people were choosing this lifestyle. Oh, they want the money, and they want there's no glory, and the money doesn't end up with the victim. The money goes to the trafficker, and the victim is truly oftentimes a prisoner of their trafficker. And so to really change the narrative, to recognize that a 14-year-old who's being trafficked is indeed a victim who then we want to become a survivor, so that she can view herself as a survivor and change her course. You
know, there's so much more I would love to get in with you, but we're short on time, so I'll ask you this. There are folks who are going to be watching this who maybe have a relative who is a survivor, or just have seen something in their neighborhood that they felt was off. How can someone help? How can folks get involved? How can they become more aware? Are there even signs maybe to keep an eye out for?
So there are. Signs to look for are changes in behavior, a child who's outgoing who becomes very introverted, unexplained clothes, jewelry, hair, nails, things like that, where would the child get the money for that? Shutting down, isolating, skipping school, all those sorts of things. And I think the number one thing for a concerned adult is open communication without judgment. And being there to listen. There are also a couple of websites that people can go to for more information. LA County human trafficking awareness. There's the Blue campaign that you talked about. So there's lots of resources. Always a call to the Child Protection Hotline can be helpful as well to try to provide services to the child and to her family.
Oh, well, Leslie Heimov, thank you so much for joining us. It's very educational, again, and really bring home the realness of this. Sometimes, folks, you can put it off somewhere else, and it's really happening. It's happening here in LA County. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And as he has been for every Republican debate, Trump opted to skip the stage to enjoy the applause of a friendly audience on a different TV network. And while he was on Fox, his opponents, Nikki Haley and Governor Ron DeSantis, traded attacks on CNN. Haley painted DeSantis as a failing candidate who is willing to lie to win. And DeSantis made her, well, he made her out to be a liberal in conservative clothing. Here is last night's debate highlights. Republican rivals Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis met in their first ever one-on-one debate Wednesday night. They're fighting to become their party's alternative to frontrunner Donald Trump. The former president once again opting to skip the debate, instead participating in his own town hall nearby.
I wish Donald Trump was up here on this stage. He's the one that I'm running against. He's the one that I wish would be here. He needs to be defending his record.
With just 5 days to go before the Iowa caucuses, both candidates aim to use the narrower stage to drive home their messages to caucus goers. Haley is promising a return to more traditional pre-Trump conservatism.
His way is not my way. I don't have vengeance. I don't have vendettas. I don't take things personally.
While DeSantis pledges to be a more effective implementer of Make America Great Again policies.
I appreciated what President Trump did, but let's just be honest. He said he was going to build a wall and have Mexico pay for it. He did not deliver that. He said he was going to drain the swamp. He did not deliver that.
Haley has emerged as a strong debater in previous clashes with rising poll numbers to prove it. DeSantis went into the night looking to curb Haley's momentum in early voting states, seizing on recent gaffes she's made on the campaign trail.
We don't need a candidate who's going to look down on middle America.
He wants to talk about me insulting Iowans. Iowans know when you're telling a joke. The fact that he's only running in one state is not the way you win president.
The first in primary Iowa caucuses will take place at the beginning of next week. All right, the taco scene in LA is as diverse as the city itself. And coming up, we're going to give you a taste of taco culture by taking you to the historic Olvera Street.